Check, check, check. Sweaty nuts. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Look, a lot of guys, they think that they need to get sore in order to grow. So, if they create muscle damage, right, they assume that the workout worked. And if they're not sore, they think that the workout was basically worthless. But that's not how this shit works, my dog. Okay, so you can be extremely sore and not grow at all. And on the flip side, you could have zero soreness and still grow. And yes, you can also get sore and grow as well. So the question is, does creating muscle damage help you build more muscle, or does it hurt muscle growth? And that is what we're gonna explore today. All right, so the muscle soreness that you feel is basically a result of muscle damage. Essentially, the integrity of the muscle fibers have been compromised, okay? And this happens primarily from the eccentric muscle action, which is the negative phase. So you have a positive and a negative. So in a curl, going up, and then going down would be the negative, which is the eccentric. So at the muscular level, force production comes down to what's called the sliding filament mechanism. This is where you have actin and myosin filaments that they interact through something known as cross-bridging. Now basically during the concentric phase, so biceps curl going up, tissues connect to each other and they ratchet up, okay? And that's how force is actually generated. But during the negative phase, which is the eccentric, it tears apart. So it gets ratcheted up and they connect. During the positive, the concentric, and then during the eccentric, the negative, it just kind of gets pulled apart, okay? So when this happens, it creates small amounts of structural micro tears in the muscle fibers. And that's what creates muscle soreness. And it's what we call DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, okay? And usually you feel it a day after, maybe 2 days after, sometimes 3 days after, or maybe 5 days, 6 days after, which you damaged a lot of muscle tissue there if that's the case. So when you feel DOMS, there's this disruption in the muscle fibers, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to grow. You might not. It's kind of a gamble, okay? Now, typically, we get acclimated pretty fast to a routine. And when you do, you get less sore, okay? And sometimes you rarely get sore at all anymore. And this is what we call the repeated bout effect. You basically get accustomed to the muscle damaging part of the stimulus that you give your muscles. But the times that you do get sore, it's simply your body's response to an unfamiliar stress. So again, it's not a direct indicator that muscle growth will actually happen. It's more of a sign that you did something that your body just wasn't used to, okay? Now you can get sore for a lot of different reasons. Maybe you did a high volume session that you're not used to. You can also get sore from a new exercise, right? Stuff you've never done or you haven't done in a long time. And loaded stretches, they can do that as well. Walking lunges, they get me all the time. I do them every week and I still get sore from them because it's a very extreme stretch in the posterior chain. Now, FYI, this is one reason why using exercise bands are looked at as penalty-free volume, because they provide more tension in the contracted position and less in the lengthened position where it's stretched, where the muscle's more prone to damage. But my point is, you may experience muscle soreness. It might happen, it might not. It's just along for the ride, okay? You can sometimes control it based off of exercise selection and of course how much volume you do and how slow your eccentrics are, how fast they are. But you need to look at it as like it's just along for the ride. Okay, it might happen, it might not. But here's the deal, guys will chase soreness because it's immediate, right? And we call this exercise-induced muscle damage, or EIMD. Okay, so the muscle damage growth hypothesis has been studied in the past, and basically stating that some muscle damage yields gains in muscular strength and size. And anecdotally, you feel it the next day, it gives you feedback. So you're like, okay, maybe this is a growth stimulus, right? And I agree it's a signal. It is feedback. In fact, I always tell my clients that there's 3 ways to know if we are targeting the muscles that we want to target. 1, do you feel it during the set? 2, do you feel it after the set? Or 3, did you get sore in that area a day or 2 or 3 days later, right? So yeah, I don't think it's completely useless. It's not what I'm saying. But if you're chasing it because it makes you feel like you did something productive, then that's the problem. Okay, the session could have been very productive with absolutely 0 muscle soreness from that session. I mean, look, guys, your body, your muscles, they can get sore from inefficient training. Just crank the volume high and you'll get lots of opportunities for muscle damage to actually happen, since there'll be more total eccentric reps that take place in that session. But that doesn't mean it will be a growth stimulating workout or session, right? So again, you can adapt and grow from training without getting sore. So if you're basing your progress on soreness, you're chasing a feeling and not necessarily a result. Which means stop designing your training program with the intention to create soreness. Or stop viewing soreness as the holy grail to muscle growth. I mean, sure, yeah, you can jack up the volume, add in the novelty and all the different angles because that's what makes you feel it, right? But none of that guarantees progression. And over time, you end up with more fatigue, but no real improvement in performance or muscularity. And without improved performance, there's really no reason for your body to grow. Now, muscle growth is primarily driven by mechanical tension. You provide force against external load. It can do it dynamically or statically. Okay, you can move through the set with reps, or you can just hold it. Okay, so you have to have some kind of external resistance, right? Now that will stress the muscle fibers and that creates internal tension. That internal mechanical tension turns on growth mechanisms through mechanotransduction. It then goes through a process of converting mechanical force into a biological signal for muscle growth. That is what signals the body to adapt. That is what builds muscle, okay? Now, soreness might show up, all right? It might be there, again, along for the ride, but it's not the driver. The soreness tells you,
oh gosh, this was new? Boy, you sure did a lot of volume the other day.
but it doesn't tell you this built muscle. Okay, so it's not the same. Now, I'm not saying muscle damage cannot potentially contribute to muscle growth. It might. A lot of researchers say it does not, and they say it's correlative, not causative. And I pretty much agree with them, but there could be something there. Nonetheless, it's not the primary driver of growth, and it's not something to be chased. And here's something very important to mention as well. Soreness can actually prevent you from growing. So the question really is, how are you going to make progressions in the form of reps or load if you're always sore? Okay, it's very hard to. You have to remember that you're natural, right? And recovery is your top priority. And in order for you to adapt, which is grow, in order for you to adapt from training and that stimulus that you give it, you first need to recover from it, right? So the reality is, soreness is going to interfere with performance. If you're still sore going into your next workout session, it's going to be harder, okay? Your body will protect itself naturally. Your nervous system won't respond like you want it to. And at the fiber level, the force production will not be 100%. It's not going to be maximal, okay? So this will limit your ability to apply tension. And consequently, this is going to limit your growth. So recovery is your priority, especially as a natty, okay? So chasing soreness can actually hurt your progression because it compromises your ability to train effectively. You aren't recovered, at least not locally, okay? So if I had to choose you being sore or not being sore, if the caveat is, if our goal is muscle growth, I would choose not being sore, okay? Because, again, if you're always sore and if you're not growing, it usually means one of two things. One, you're doing too much volume, or two, you're constantly changing your training routines. Both create a lot of muscle disruption, but neither guarantees progression. So your body is constantly recovering, but never actually adapting in a meaningful way. So you stay in this cycle of fatigue without progression. Now, going back to the repeated bout effect, yeah, because I know some people will comment, well, if you've been training for a long time, you're not going to be really that sore. And there's a lot of components to whether you're sore or not, like the ones I'd mentioned. Of course, your recovery, your sleep, your protein, that matters. There's a genetic component to it as well. So obviously you can get to a point where you're acclimating, where you're not as sore, but that's not don't look at it like, oh, I need to get sore. I've acclimated. So let's go up another notch to get sore because that will equate to growth. It doesn't work like that. All right. So yes, you can continue to acclimate to not being sore, but that doesn't mean you will continue to grow. Okay. So pay attention to you being sore, being able to recover and adapt. Okay. So really this right here, your recovery is your priority, is speaking to, hey, are you sore going into your next session? If you are, you have to kind of reconsider things. Maybe the session's too close. Maybe the frequency's off. It should be pushed out. Maybe that volume's really high. Okay, so, or you're just constantly changing your routine and you're doing new things all the time, which you shouldn't be doing that anyway, because, you know, why are we doing this muscle confusion crap, right? So bottom line, we're not trying to chase soreness. We need to make sure that we are recovered so we can grow. So instead of asking, is this going to make me sore? So again, right, you do your whatever, 8 sets, and you're like, oh, I didn't get sore, so I'll push it up. We just keep going up to oblivion, right? But that's not the question. It's not, will I get sore from this? The question is, am I progressing? Are your lifts improving? Are you adding reps? Are you adding load? Is your performance going up over time? Because that's what actually matters. This is our proxy for what drives growth. That in the mirror, of course. You want this to be objective, okay? So you have to shift your focus from this feeling of, oh, I need to do more, I need to get sore, to performance. It needs to go from how do I get sore to how do I progress. It needs to go from, will I get fatigued from this? Is this the goal, or is the goal adaptation for growth? Because once you shift this, your natty training becomes more effective. It becomes more productive long term. Okay, so soreness is not the goal, you guys, all right? Muscle growth is. And growth doesn't come from how wrecked you feel. It comes from how well your body adapts over time. So if you're constantly sore, but you're not progressing, you're focused on the wrong shit, all right? So look, if you guys want a system that manages progression, recovery, and gives you growth, click that top link in the description. Do it. Check out Natty Aesthetics. Let's get it. Let's get jacked.